The story opens up in a royal party, and the young Prince Marcus declares to his fiancée, Soulbound, that their engagement is officially broken now. Everyone present in the room was shocked to hear that, while he further accused her that the moment she found out that Annika was the true saint of this kingdom, she started bullying her, pushing her down the stairs and spilling wine all over her gown and all that. Meanwhile, Soulbound just stood there, wondering what the hell he was talking about, since the girl had done all those things by herself. Turns out that in this kingdom of Grandio, once every 100 years, a saint was born. Right now, the saint was believed to be the daughter of the Vias Count family, and 7 years ago, the royal palace's prophet declared this himself. Being the count's child, Soulbound was declared the saint, and soon after, her engagement to Prince Marcus was arranged. However, just a few weeks ago, her stepmother suddenly woke up and started saying that her real daughter, Annika, was the real saint because she saw her using divine powers, and she accused Soulbound of being a fake saint. So that's how this whole situation came to be. Annika, doing her Oscar-level acting of being an innocent little girl, clung to the prince, who further stated that he could not let a fake saint like her stay in this kingdom any longer, as there was no telling what she might do to Annika, the true saint. Hence, he announced that she was now exiled to the faraway land of Torre. Yet again, everybody was completely stunned hearing that from him, since it was known that the land of Torre was crawling with monsters, and right now, the first Knight Corps were stationed there themselves. Furthermore, he also added that she would have to serve in the Knight's dormitory, which basically meant that she would have to do manual labor in the dormitory as well. This made everyone present in the room question his decision, because the fact remained that she was a young lady from a noble family, and there was no way she should be doing things like that. But he stayed on his word and told her that even if she apologized now, he would not reverse this decision. However, on the contrary, Soulbound had a bright smile on her face, and she thanked Marcus for making this decision, leaving everyone confused. Annika, being a little brat, questioned her about what the hell she was smiling for, as she was going to be made to work in Torre, in a knight's dormitory that was full of nothing but rough men. But she simply responded that she would do that with pleasure, while she thought to herself that God really does exist. Even though she had not been able to share this with anyone, the thing was that she was a girl who went crazy for muscles, and as a matter of fact, she absolutely loved knights. The knights of the royal palace, especially the 1st Knight Division in particular, were an elite unit chosen from the best of the best. From the way they risked their lives to protect the kingdom, to the well-defined muscles and powerful physiques that were visible even beneath their uniforms, everything about them was simply lovely. They were the pride of the kingdom, and now, finally, she could get to work at the dormitory where they all lived. Hence, she went up to Marcus and grabbing his hand, she thanked him for sending her there, while contemplating that although she did not really dislike him, he never actually caught her attention anyway, and she wasn't interested in him because he was too thin. She wished Annika all the best for her queen training, which she knew from experience was going to be too tough, and with that said, she happily took her leave from them, as she was gloriously exiled as the fake saint. Cut to a few weeks later, in the faraway land of Torre, she finally arrived at the knight's dormitory, and she formally introduced herself to Elga, who was there to welcome her. Elga showed her her room, and Soulbound was surprised to see how big the room was, which made Elga a little confused as she pointed out that her room back at home must surely have been even bigger than this. To that, she simply chuckled and said yes, while thinking that that was the case until her stepmother took it away. Putting that aside, Elga was also surprised to see how energetic she was, and Soulbound replied that it was because she had actually been looking forward to this moment a lot. But then, just as she was about to express her love for knights, she stopped and understood that it might be a bit weird to say that out loud. Nonetheless, Elga was glad to see that she was already motivated, since they were running short on workers after all. On top of that, Elga also informed her that the work was pretty tough around there, and it was not exactly the type of work someone of her noble status would normally be used to doing. However, with utmost determination, Soulbound told her that she could do any task they gave her, whether it be cleaning, laundry, or cooking, as she was at least capable of doing all that. In her mind, she recalled how ever since her father passed away 5 years ago, her stepmother told her to do all the household chores by herself, since no other servant was going to take care of her. Surprisingly, once she tried it, it wasn't that tough anyway, and she was now capable enough that she wouldn't be treated like a helpless noble by anyone. With that in mind, she shared with Elga that she came there prepared to do anything. Of course, she would have to ask for guidance on anything that she did not know, but she wanted to improve and be able to do everything from now on. Hearing all that from her, Elga could tell that life had not been easy for her either, and she sympathized with her. But then, she noticed that Cybele was traveling pretty light as well, and it turned out that all her treasured possessions amounted to nothing more than what could be fitted inside one suitcase. Everything that her father had given her ended up in the hands of her stepmother and Annika. Still, it did not really matter to her, because from now on, she hoped to make plenty of memories at the knight's dormitory. A few moments later, Elga accompanied her to the commander's office, and as she entered inside, the commander respectfully welcomed her and offered her a seat. The moment she looked at him, she could see his chiseled muscles showing even through his uniform. On top of that, his height was also overwhelming, and he had such a broad, sturdy frame that it left her completely mesmerized. She finally got to see the legendary commander of the First Knights, and at that moment, she felt she would not even mind if she died right now. However, she quickly collected herself, as she understood that she must make a good first impression. And so she gracefully introduced herself to him like a proper lady and said that she looked forward to being under his guidance. Suddenly, the commander just started laughing and seemed quite amused by her, while she began to wonder if she was acting weird because she got too excited. The three of them took a seat, and the commander also introduced himself as Leo. He asked her not to be so formal with him, since he did not really like stiff formalities. The knights under his command and the people who took care of this dormitory were all part of the team, and they were basically like family. Hence, he asked her to keep things casual as well. She was really surprised to see how kind he was, and on top of that, it had been so long since someone had smiled at her like this that she could not even remember when the last time was that she had seen someone smile like that. He was nothing like Marcus, who always treated his attendants like mere servants, and witnessing all this, her admiration for the knights just continued to go up. With that out of the way, Elga gave her a quick tour around the place, and yet again, she was simply amazed to see the place where the knights lived, and all of it made her really excited. Elga then informed her that she would call her shortly once dinner was prepared. Suddenly, Cybele insisted that she wanted to help as well. Elga assumed that she must be tired after such a long trip, but Cybele was really determined to lend a hand. In the end, Elga finally accepted her help, which made Cybele very happy. Later in the evening, Commander Leo was writing in his dear diary, and he reflected on everything that had happened ever since Cybele arrived. From the moment they both greeted each other, he realized that she was quite different from what he had imagined. She insisted on helping out the others and seemed genuinely excited to be there. He had already heard many things about her, that she was once engaged to Prince Marcus Grandio, and that she was a false saint. When it was revealed that her stepsister was the true saint, she began to torment her, and everyone called her a wicked woman. Because of that, the prince broke off the engagement and exiled her from the kingdom. Leo had already thought that it was a strange story, but since this land of Tauragis was constantly threatened by monsters, it was quite dangerous here, and they were already short on workers. Everyone working there, except for the knights, had some kind of circumstances they were dealing with, and as the leader, he just wanted everyone to live as safely as possible. That's why he was prepared to accept her even if she was a so-called wicked woman. But then, when he finally faced her and saw her greeting him so respectfully, he could not help but laugh, since it was the first time someone had said something like that to him. A part of him wondered if she intended to be his wife, and if she was possibly planning to stay there for life. From his experience, most people on their first day in this place were either frightened or completely exhausted. However, her emerald green eyes sparkled so brightly that they overflowed with anticipation. But at the same time, he could not help but notice the plain clothes that she was wearing, and he wondered if all her expensive belongings were confiscated as punishment for bullying her stepsister. Just then, another knight named Marco came into his office and asked him what was going on in his mind. The commander asked him what he thought about the new girl who had joined them, as he could not stop thinking that she was quite different from what they had heard. Mirko agreed with him and stated that he had also thought she would be some scheming noble lady. However, he was also surprised to see that she turned out to be more ordinary than he expected, and she did not seem like a high-ranking noble at all. On top of that, they had also heard that she helped with the dinner as well, and it actually tasted better than usual, which made them wonder why the count's daughter suddenly came to them and started cooking. It was highly unlikely that cooking was something they would be teaching in noble bride education these days, and Leo also agreed that he had never heard of such a thing, even though he had been away from the capital for a long time now. Still, Mirko commented that it was actually nice that she had such a cheerful personality, and her cooking skills were not bad either. Starting from tomorrow, she was going to work there officially. He believed that a person's true nature always reveals itself quickly, so they would soon learn what type of person she really was. However, Leo was not worried about that, and he contemplated the possibility that the reports they received might be the ones that were wrong. The only question was how much of the information he had received was fake. The next morning, Sybil walked through the hallways, and the knights wished her a good morning. They were surprised to see that she woke up so early, even though the sun had not risen yet, and she replied that she was going to prepare breakfast for them. She excitedly entered the kitchen, and the maids were also surprised to see how full of energy she was even so early in the morning. She was ready to help them out with anything, and Elga told her she was free to ask about anything that she did not know. It turns out that even though this was a very remote place, the food supplies there were abundant, and from the looks of it, it seemed like the elite knights of the order were provided with the best ingredients without restraint. Thanks to that, Sybil was able to enjoy a very luxurious meal that consisted of fresh whole vegetables, soft bread, and soup with meat in it. Little did she know that those were all actually the bare minimum a typical human gets to eat. On top of that, she had very kind seniors helping her out at every step, and most importantly, she was surrounded by real knights whom she had always admired so much. She truly felt like this was some kind of divine reward. Later, everyone sat down to eat, and the knights were amazed to see how delicious the omelette and the soup were, which were all made by Sybil. They were curious to know what exactly it was that she was putting in there, and she stood there with a smile on her face, thinking that it was her love that she was putting in there. But of course, she could not say that out loud because she was a lady, so she simply said that she was glad to see that they liked it. It was so delicious that some knights even felt their strength returning, which made them motivated to work hard. Meanwhile, Elga thanked Sybil for making such a great meal, and she allowed her to take charge of meal preparation from now on. Later on, they did some laundry, and yet again, Elga was surprised to see that she was quite used to doing laundry as well. Sybil responded that this was still her first time doing so much at once, so it might take her a while to get it done, and Elga assured her that she was already fast enough. Sybil was extremely happy to hear such a compliment from her, and she decided to keep doing her best to live up to their expectations. Apparently, the reason why she always tried to do things quickly was because she did not have much free time due to her slave education. Whenever she got back home, she had to prepare her own meals, do the laundry, and even regularly clean her room. She used to quickly finish all of that so that she could read romance novels featuring cool knights, and she also used to secretly watch the knights training. In fact, the reason she could handle her work so well now was thanks to those days. Just then, she noticed that the shirts she had been hanging up all had the same design, and she finally realized that she was holding the uniform that the knights wear under their armor, which straight up made her lose her mind. Elga noticed her and asked her if she was all right, to which she replied that she just got a little dizzy for a moment. Elga told her to just take the rest of the day off and rest in her room, but of course she was not going to do that and assured her that she could keep on working. However, Elga also insisted on the matter and said that if she pushed herself too hard right away, it would not be good for her. Besides, just having one more person around there had already made things much easier, so there was no need for her to push herself. Sybil continued to assure her that she was fine, while thinking to herself that if anybody were to find out that she got excited just by thinking about the knights' bodies, they would most certainly kick her out of this place, and she did not want that at all. So she collected herself and decided that she would not lose to her desires anymore and would keep doing her best. Just then, Commander Leo himself came up to her, and she was surprised to see him there. She asked him what he was doing there, and he answered that he was just passing by when he noticed that she was working too hard hanging the laundry. So he decided to help her out as well and said that this place had already been short-handed for a long time. That's why the knights also wanted to do as much as possible. Suddenly, others also came in to help her out, and at that moment, Sybil finally began to understand what Leo meant when he said that all the comrades here were like a big family. The knights were working by putting their lives on the line, and even the people working in the dormitory faced danger every day. But still, the atmosphere around that place was truly warm, and she loved that. Later on, Sybil and Elga sat by themselves, and she brought up how kind everyone was around that place. The commander, the knights, and even the other dorm workers had all warmly welcomed her, and they also enjoyed her cooking. But then, Elga shared with her that everyone present there had their own special circumstances. For her, she was practically sold and was sent there to pay off the debts her real parents had made. Almost all of her money was being sent to her family, but still, she liked her life right now, at least much more than being back there. Sybil was really shocked to hear that, and she realized that she was not the only one who had it rough before coming to this place. However, coming here had allowed her to find some happiness, and she believed that it was largely because of Leo's kindness toward all his comrades. With that in mind, she brought up how friendly and easy to talk to leader Leo was, but at the same time, she could tell that he had a sense of refinement as well, which made her guess that he must have been raised well. Elga simply nodded, but Cybele noticed a change in her expression, and she guessed that Elga must have been feeling left out. So she praised her as well, telling her that she was also very kind and easy to talk to, and that she was really beautiful as well. Elga thanked her for that, while Cybele began to wonder that if everyone in this place truly had their own special circumstances, then did that mean Leo had a story of his own as well? Some time passed, and it had now been a week since Cybele arrived in that place. Apparently, each task was assigned based on individual skills around that place, and her responsibilities were to prepare meals and hang the laundry. While she was doing so, Commander Leo paid her a visit yet again and praised her for doing such great work. She assured him that it was nothing, but then she looked at him and could not help but notice his strong, well-balanced muscles, which were visible even through his clothes. He was not overly bulky and was perfectly proportioned. On top of that, the knight who was standing right beside him was Mirko, the vice-captain of the elite First Knights, and he was one of the most popular and muscular knights of the entire First Knight Order. Just seeing how great they both looked in their uniforms, she could not contain her excitement and was getting overwhelmed, while the two of them just stood there confused, asking her if she was all right. Putting that aside, the two of them began helping her out with the laundry since it was quite a lot. She requested that they did not need to do that, but then again, she got distracted when she saw their large hands holding clothes and towels and how it made everything seem so small. Pulling herself together, she assured them that she could take care of this by herself. However, Leo insisted, saying that it would only be faster if they did it together. Mirko also told her that she did not need to worry about such small things, and she was just amazed to see how kind they both were. After they were done, she thanked both of them for lending her a hand, and Leo mentioned that it should be them who should thank her, because now that he knew how she always handled all this by herself, it was kind of making him feel guilty. But she once again assured him that this was nothing, while thinking to herself that hanging up the shirts and towels used by the knights themselves was true happiness for her. Leo told her that if she ever needed help, she should not hesitate and just ask, and she promised to do that. With that said, the knights took their leave from her, and as they left, she noticed the expression on Leo's face and wondered if there was something they needed from her. Later on, she made sandwiches for lunch, and like always, the knights praised her for her delicious cooking, saying that they had never had such delicious sandwiches before. They thanked her for always making such great meals for them, and even stated that her food gave them a lot of energy. She thanked them for all the compliments, and seeing how happy they were with her food, she was really glad that she came there. She thought to herself that even though this was considered a dangerous area, ever since she had arrived there had not been a single monster attack. She believed that it must be thanks to the knights who were constantly protecting them, and it just made her even more happy. Later that night, Leo went back to his office and once again he asked Mirko what he thought of Cybele. From what he had observed, Mirko could tell that she did not seem to be acting, and Leo agreed with him, as he also felt that her reactions when they spoke to her were completely natural. Even though she sometimes acted a bit odd, like hiding her face and all that, it was nothing really suspicious. Elga also reported that she was doing a great job in whatever was given to her, did not slack off, and had no ill intent whatsoever. In fact, she was very humble and an incredibly diligent person. Considering all that, Mirko was also starting to think that the reports they had received about her from the capital might have been false. Leo recalled the story they had heard about her, how her father, Count Vyas, passed away 5 years ago, and then her stepmother adopted a relative to inherit the title, which made it likely that their relationship was not that great. He speculated that the stepmother must have wanted her real daughter to marry the prince, so she framed Cybele, made all the false claims, and on top of that, the prince believed them without proper investigation. If all that was true, he understood that this was a really bad situation for her. Hence, he decided to run a secret investigation on this matter, since it could affect Prince Marcus's whole future. However, Mirko pointed out that if he were to do that, he would not be able to stay uninvolved in this, but Leo already understood that fully well. He could imagine what kind of treatment Cybele must have received from her stepmother, and he could also kind of understand how that felt. But despite that, she was always so cheerful, working so hard all the time with that small body of hers. He could imagine that she must have endured many hardships until now, and if she was still struggling in any way, he just wanted to help her out as much as possible so that she could live happily now, because she deserved that much. Merkham noticed that he was still thinking about her, so he told him that she might actually be enjoying herself more than they had expected, and Leo also hoped that was the case. Meanwhile, coming back to Cybele, she could not stop smiling as she contemplated how ever since she started working at the Knight's dormitory, every day had been filled with happiness. She was thirsty, so she went out to the dining hall to get some water, but when she got there, she smelled herbal tea in the dining hall. It was Leo who had poured himself some tea, and he asked her what she was doing there at this hour of the night. She answered that she had just come there to get some water, so he passed her the water and she thanked him. But then suddenly, she could see his muscular chest, and she just went absolutely crazy. He then asked her if she had gotten used to her life in this place, and she quickly answered that she had. In fact, since everyone around there was so kind to her, she was actually enjoying her work. In response, Leo simply smiled, and he was glad to hear that. He then wanted to add a little honey to his tea, and Cybele offered to get it for him. However, she could not really get it open, so Leo took the bottle from her. Of course, he just opened it up with extreme ease, while she stood there admiring his long, bony fingers and the veins on his hands. At the same time, she also thought that if it were Prince Marcus instead, he would probably just order his servants to do so. But then, before she even realized it, she touched his hand, and she did not even know why she did that. She panicked and felt really embarrassed. She started apologizing to him repeatedly, thinking to herself why she would do something like that. But then, with a calm expression, he assured her that it was all right, and in fact, he felt that he should be the one apologizing. She did not really understand what he meant by that, but she started admiring him even more, and her whole face turned red. With that said, the two of them sat together, and she enjoyed every bit of that moment, as she thought to herself that the person in front of her looked like someone she had seen somewhere before, and she wondered if it was in a dream. A few days later, Cybele sat in the dining hall by herself to have her dinner, and she had made a stew from rabbit meat along with some round bread that was fluffy on the outside and soft on the inside. Just one bite, and she was amazed to see how delicious it was, but at the same time, she was also thinking if it was okay for her to be this happy. For the past 5 years, she was ignored at home, and her only joys were reading romance novels and hoping to catch a glimpse of the knights at the royal palace. And now she was finally with the knights she always admired, and the food here was incredibly delicious as well, which made her really happy. Just then, Leo popped up behind her and asked her what was making her so happy. She was startled to see him there, and he also realized that he had accidentally spoken his thoughts out loud. She asked him if there was anything she could help him with, and he told her that he was just there looking for something to drink. She offered to get it for him, but he assured her it was fine and asked her to continue eating her food. As he started drinking the water, yet again, Cybele was mesmerized seeing how majestic he looked, and what a strong and manly Adam's apple he had. He noticed her staring at him, so he asked her if something was wrong, and she said no as she kept reminding herself that she must act like a proper lady. He then brought up that she seemed to really enjoy her meals, and she stated that she felt very lucky to eat such soft and fluffy bread, which made him a bit confused. He pointed out that since she was once a noble lady and a prince's fiancée, she must have surely eaten many luxurious meals before, and compared to that, this was nothing. She could not really answer that, so she just started eating very fast, while he further added that her cooking had helped all the knights recover from fatigue and lift their spirits. Cybele appreciated the compliment, and said that she still had a long way to go compared to the senior chefs. However, she also expressed that she truly respected the knights because, despite facing dangerous missions, they always remained calm and kind, and that's why, just knowing that they were there, it made her feel very safe. In her mind, she reflected how no one in this dormitory acted arrogantly, whereas in the royal capital, the nobles indulged themselves in luxuries paid for by the hardworking citizen, and yet they showed no gratitude whatsoever. The knights, on the other hand, were the polar opposite, and not only were they strong in body, they had big hearts as well. Leo felt that she was exaggerating a little, but then all of a sudden, she got in real close to him and shouted that it was not an exaggeration at all. That caught him a bit off guard, and as soon as she realized what she had just done, she got extremely embarrassed, while Leo just started laughing, and he found this side of her really funny. He also added that having her around this place actually helped him as well, because whenever he talked with her, it gave him energy. She was really surprised to hear that, and had no words, but one thing that she knew was that she truly enjoyed this moment. Even though she used to spend time with Prince Marcus, she could not remember them ever laughing together like this. As a matter of fact, the noble ladies and royals were taught not to laugh too openly like this. However, in this place, the knights laughed so freely, even though most of them were surely from noble families. Just witnessing all this made her even more grateful for the annulment of her engagement, and while she was thinking all that, Leo further added that talking with her was always fun, which just made her even more embarrassed, and her whole face turned red as she could not believe how considerate and attentive he was. He was a true knight captain. At the same time, she also thought to herself if the reason why he seemed extra charming to her was because he reminded her of the black-haired knight from her favorite romantic novel. She tried to recall the name of that book, but she could not really remember it. Later on, at nighttime, Leo sat in his office, and now that he had spent a month with Sybil, he had come to realize two things about her. The first being that the claim that she bullied her stepsister was obviously a lie, and if anything, she was the one who suffered the most. She was a person who woke up early, even on holidays, to help prepare breakfast, and she took care of everyone in the dormitory. She was always so devoted and hardworking, and that brought him to the second thing that he had realized about her. Just then, his two comrades sitting in front of him called him out and questioned him on whether he was even listening to what they were discussing. They asked him what he was thinking about, and he answered that it was nothing. But then Yoi pointed out that the look on his face screamed that he was in love with someone. He took a wild guess and asked him if it was Sybil who had caught his attention. Leo tried to explain that it wasn't like that, but Yodi joked around and said there was no need for him to be so shy, since she was a very adorable lady, and she was always so full of energy yet so relaxed at the same time. He continued to count down all the good things about her, and seeing that, Leo asked him if he liked Sybil, to which he immediately answered that he actually did. In fact, Vice Captain Mirko also admitted that he liked her as well. As soon as he heard that, Leo's expression changed, and he understood that of course, everyone liked her. It was foolish of him to think that he was the only one who cared about her, but then, Yodi brought up that it was highly unlikely that anyone in this place disliked her, and Leo realized that he meant it in that regard. However, Yodi continued to tease him and asked him if he liked her in a different way, and the commander remained silent. Mirko also mentioned that it was quite rare for him to be interested in a woman, and Leo finally shared with both of them that he had not really fallen for her yet, but they refused to believe him. He contemplated how all his life he had always been focused on his duties as a knight. It was true that his father also occasionally wrote to him, urging him to marry. However, he had not spoken with him in a long time. Besides, since he was born from his father's affair with a mistress, he never really felt comfortable even in his own home, and that was the main reason why he decided to join the Knights at a young age. He was never interested in love, nor had he ever been in a deep relationship, but now he himself was not sure if he was catching feelings for Sybil. However, there was one more thing he was concerned about, and that was whether or not she was truly a saint. Saints were said to be born once every 100 years, and their presence alone was believed to bring peace. Ever since she had arrived in this place, the monsters had been unusually quiet, and the knight's fatigue seemed to recover faster when they ate her food. If she truly was a saint, he believed that would explain everything, and if so, there was also the fact that saints were traditionally meant to marry only the prince. But even so, while Yodi and Mirko continued to tease him, telling him that he should act fast, otherwise someone else might make a move before him since there were many who admired her as well, he thought to himself that he must be more cautious when it came to her, because he could not stand this life anymore. Meanwhile, coming back to the royal capital, Annika was crying out like a 5-year-old, screaming that she was tired of all the training, while her teacher commanded her to lower her voice, as a lady must never shout. She kept crying, asking the prince to get her out of there, and the teacher also had no idea what the hell she was supposed to do with a brat like that who kept on making the same mistake again and again, while Prince Marcus just stood there annoyed, as he did not know what he was supposed to do with her either. The teacher kept telling her that she must behave, otherwise she wouldn't be able to manage as the crown princess, while she, on the other hand, argued that now that she was the saintess, she should be able to marry the prince unconditionally. The teacher got tired of her stupidity, and she just decided to get out of there, as there was nothing she could do about her, while the prince contemplated that although it had only been a month since Annika started her princess training, several of her tutors had already quit. The only thing she was concerned with was getting married to him, and she just kept repeating that like a 4-year-old, but he also knew that even if she was the saintess, he could not marry her before she had proper education and etiquette. So all this was for her own dignity, and more importantly, it was for him and his mother as well. Apparently, back when Marcus was young, the king had arranged a separate residence inside the palace grounds just for his concubine and the illegitimate child he had with her. There were rumors that the child strongly resembled the king's great-grandfather, and that's why he was planning to make him the next king instead of Marcus, his queen's real son. Marcus believed that if he could marry the saintess, then his father would have to acknowledge him as the next king. However, during his time with Cybele, he could tell that she was not really interested in him, and when her powers did not manifest properly either, he began to doubt if she was even the real saint. He was already 20 years old, and he was starting to get afraid that if things continued like this, he would never be declared crown prince. Just then, Annika and her mother came in and told him that Cybele was just a fake saint who had always been jealous of her stepsister, who was in fact the real saint. Hearing those words, he felt a strange sense of relief, as he could finally marry the real saint. The claim that Cybele was just jealous of Annika did make sense to him as well, because he could somewhat relate to it. If his father were to tell him that his brother was going to inherit the throne instead of him, of course, he would be jealous as well. But now, coming back to the present, the situation had not changed much at all, and whenever he asked Annika to show him the powers of the saintess, she just started crying like an idiot and told him that she was too tired to use them today. It frustrated him a lot, but still, he kept telling himself that everything would be fine because she was the daughter of a noble family who grew up in the same house as Cybele, even though they were not blood-related. He kept telling himself that she must be the real one, as he could not even begin to imagine what a disaster it would be if she turned out to be a fake as well. Meanwhile, back at the Knights' dormitory, the Knights were in the middle of their routine training. Cybele brought something to eat for them, and yes, like always, they praised her cooking. Just then, Leo and Mirko arrived there, and calling out to her, Leo told her that she did not have to bring this for them when she should actually be resting, but she assured him it was no big deal, and in fact, she actually liked watching them train. Confused, he asked her how anyone could enjoy watching a bunch of sweaty men, and some Knights took that personally, as they made it very clear that they were not sweaty and gross, and that they even bathed every day. Putting that aside, now that both the captain and the vice-captain were there, Yodi asked them if they would like to spar with them for a bit, and Mirko stepped up as he decided to take him on. He took off his jacket and requested Cybele to hold it for him, and of course, she gladly accepted to help. They agreed to use real swords for this, and Mirko told him to come at him with everything he had got. Yodi joked around and said that if he were to do that, then he would end up hurting the most popular vice-captain, and Mirko simply laughed and stated that if he did that, then he would be the vice-captain instead. Meanwhile, Cybele, on the other hand, was still in shock that she was able to hold the vice-captain's jacket while she witnessed a real duel between two knights. They quickly started fighting, and Mirko attacked him with such speed that Yodi barely managed to block it. The vice-captain praised him, saying that his stance was very good, but still, he was too weak. He continued to overpower him, and all Yodi could do was just block his attacks until eventually, he left an opening, and Mirko quickly used that to put his sword right across his neck. Yodi fell down and surrendered, while the vice-captain advised him that even though his speed and accuracy were impressive, he still needed to be more careful instead of overestimating his own strength, and Yodi thanked him for the match. Cybele went up to him to hand him his jacket and complimented him that he fought wonderfully. Mirko appreciated that, but he also brought up that their captain was, in fact, far stronger than him, and Leo just stood there with a blank expression and simply said, "I suppose so." Cybele also thought to herself that it must be true, because after all, he was the captain, and he must surely be even stronger than Vice-Captain Mirko. But just thinking about his strength made her feel a bit nervous, and she did not even know why. Later in the evening, Cybele paid Leo a visit in his office, and confused, he asked her if something was wrong, but it turned out she had actually brought something for him. It was lemon slices soaked in honey, the same dish that she had offered the knights earlier. Since he did not really get to have any earlier, she made these extras specially for him so that he could taste some as well, and he appreciated that a lot. With that said, he mustered up the courage to say it out loud and asked her if she could join him for a cup of tea. She agreed, and then, a few moments later, the two of them sat down, and she simply could not believe that she was getting to drink tea that was brewed by the captain himself. At the same time, she recalled hearing that Leo was not born into a noble family, which made her wonder what his home was like. But then he looked at her and asked her if she was sure that she was not overdoing herself, since she was always working so hard for them. At first, she was a bit surprised to hear him bringing that up out of nowhere, but like always, she once again assured him that she was completely fine, and as a matter of fact, she was happier than she had ever been before. Leo was glad to hear that. However, judging from the look on his face, she could tell that he still had something he wanted to say, but he was holding back. Suddenly, he came up front and asked her if she would like to go out with him the next time they had a day off together. She was just shocked and could not believe what he had just said. A few days later, it turned out that Sybil agreed to go out with him, and they hopped onto a carriage to head towards the town. Being the gentleman that he was, he helped her get inside, while in her mind she was still thinking if it was really okay for her to go out with him like this. As they moved out, she thanked him for taking some time out of his busy schedule, and he stated that he was looking forward to it as well, because it had been a while since he had gone to town for something other than work. Sybil then shared with him that back in the royal capital, she never really got the chance to go out into town, so that's why she was actually happy that he invited her with him. He was surprised to hear that, and asked her if she was busy with her princess training and all that, to which she answered that she was, while in her mind she contemplated that even though he knew she was a fake saint, he was still treating her with such kindness, and that made her really happy. But putting that aside, she could not stop thinking about how incredible he looked today. His casual outfit looked absolutely amazing, and his broad shoulders and strong arms were something she could just snuggle all day. Later, they finally arrived at the city of Tori, and apparently, almost every merchant on the street knew the commander. They greeted him and asked if he would like to buy some fruits, and seeing the young lady by his side, one even asked him if he was out on a date today. He simply chuckled and said, "I suppose," while Sybil, on the other hand, was losing her mind and could not even begin to understand whether she was seriously on a date with the captain, or if he was just messing around. With a smile on his face, he offered her his hand and asked her if they shall move ahead, while she was still trying to comprehend the fact that she was actually on a date with him. She was ready to follow him anywhere, even if that place was hell. He then took her to a clothing shop which was one of the most popular in the royal capital, having the latest trendy date dresses. At first, she started wondering if he had a hobby of dressing like a woman or something, but then he asked her if she could accept a present from him as a thanks for everything. He wanted to make sure that she wouldn't be bothered by it, and she told him that it was fine, but she was still in shock, trying to understand everything that was going on. He had already selected a dress for her, and when she tried it on, he complimented her, saying that it suited her really well. She looked in the mirror, and he further added that it matched her hair really well. He requested the helper to let her wear it as she leaves, and she offered to wrap up the clothes they were wearing before for them. Sybil, on the other hand, was simply overwhelmed, and she asked him if he was sure about this, to which he replied that it would make him very happy if they could go out together again while she was wearing this. She was extremely happy hearing all that, and with a bright smile on her face, she thanked him for everything. After that, they went to a stall to grab something to eat, and she really liked the food there. But then, all of a sudden, one customer started yelling at the chef and questioned him about why the hell he was serving them rotten meat. He grabbed the chef by the collar and accused him, saying that he must have eaten all the fresh meat by himself. The chef tried to explain to him that that was not the case at all, but he refused to listen. The other customers recognized the man as the delinquent who had been causing trouble lately, but they were too afraid to do anything. Leo got up from his chair and told Sybil not to move from there. The bully brought out a knife and was straight up about to attack the chef, when suddenly Leo came in to help, and he pinned him to the wall using 2 knives. He asked the chef to call the knights in charge of this area, and he rushed to do that right away. The people sitting there immediately recognized that he was the captain of the Knight Order, while he went back to his lady and suggested that they should leave from there, as the person in charge would take care of the rest. As the two of them walked away from there, Sybil remembered what Mirko had said about him, that he was even more amazing than everybody else, and she was beginning to understand those words as she saw firsthand that even though he just used 2 ordinary knives, he turned them into bullets. In fact, for a moment there, it looked like he was using magic. Even though he was such an amazing and powerful person, he was always looking out for even a newcomer like her to make sure that she was taking a break and all that, which yet again made her realize that he was indeed a very kind person. As they walked together, she saw one shop that for some reason caught her attention, and she asked Leo if they could stop by there. They entered inside, and she was surprised to see how beautiful that shop was, while Leo noticed that there was actually a magic stone in there. Magical stones were just a type of mineral that acted as a source of magical power. High-quality magic stones were imbued with power by those with strong magical abilities and were used as everyday tools with various effects. However, these were usually made only for appearance in the form of accessories, and most of them did not even contain magic power. She saw one stone and immediately noticed that it looked a lot like Leo's eye color. She decided to take that one with her, and the owner complimented her, saying that she had a really good eye because the stone she had picked was a very powerful gem, and it had the ability to work as a protective charm. If she were to wear it while offering a prayer, it would surely protect her. Leo could also tell that it was indeed true, as he could sense a faint magical power from the stone, but he guessed that Cybele probably wouldn't be able to notice it. The two of them left the shop, and Leo brought up that this shop was kind of mysterious since there weren't any customers in there besides them, while Cybele was just happy that she was able to make a great purchase as she wondered if her prayers would actually make it a protective charm. Leo suggested that they should have some tea somewhere since there was still some time before their carriage arrived, but she, on the other hand, was really curious about her stone, so for the first time in her life, she decided to do a prayer, and she prayed that Leo may always be protected from monsters and dangers. All of a sudden, she released a burst of mana, and Leo immediately noticed that. He was completely shocked, while she was simply smiling, and she felt that the stone had become somewhat warm, but she just thought that it must be her imagination. Calling out to him, she told him that she wanted to give this stone to him as a present. Now that she had put her prayers into it, she hoped that it could help him return safely even when he goes on a mission or subjugation. She wanted him to have it as just a small token of her feelings. However, Leo was still in shock, as he could sense that the faint magical power that was there before had now grown beyond what the magic stone could even contain, which was only possible through the saint's power of prayer. The next day, it was a bit of an occasion for Cybele because she had an entire day off. The moment she woke up, she immediately started thinking about Leo, but she quickly tried to calm herself down, telling herself that she must not let her mind wander. If she did that, she would just keep thinking about yesterday's date with him. So, to distract herself from that, she decided to clean the training room. When she went to the training room to do some cleaning, she saw Leo in there doing push-ups and some training, which left her absolutely stunned. This was the best reward she could ask for ever, and she could not believe how wonderful he looked. He saw her watching him, and she quickly apologized to him, clarifying that she did not want to interrupt him while he was so focused, and he asked her if something had happened. She still could not stop thinking about this feeling that she was having now, as it was very different from how she feels when she admires his strong muscles. It was just something else, and just looking at him, she could not even think straight. Of course, Leo noticed that she was staring at him. However, he took it in a different manner and apologized to her for showing her something so unsightly as he quickly went to put on a t-shirt. With that said, he asked her what she was doing there, and she explained to him that she just thought she should help with some cleaning since she did not really have any plans for today. He was happy to see that she always wanted to help out. However, he once again requested that she should not overdo it, and she assured him that it was completely fine because she actually enjoys doing all that for them. Even so, he told her that she should take care of herself, and if anything was ever troubling her, he wanted her to know that she could always talk to him. Even though he was not the most reliable person, still, at the very least, he believed he could try to understand her feelings. He also shared with her how he did not used to feel comfortable in his own home, which is why he ran away from there and joined the Knights. But even to this day, he had no regrets about that decision, and he truly believed that becoming a knight was the right choice for him. He was happy, and he felt fulfilled. Therefore, he told her that if there was any pain that she had to carry, he just wanted to help her share that burden. He wanted her to know that in this place, she has someone on her side on whom she could rely. Hearing all that, she was left speechless for a moment, and then, with a smile on her face, she thanked him, expressing how much this meant to her, but she assured him that she was happy as well. In fact, ever since she had come here, every day had been so much fun for her. He was glad to hear that, and with that out of the way, he took his leave to go wash up and reminded her not to overwork herself. Later in the evening, he went to Mirko's room, and he had just come out of a bath. He started staring at him and confused. Mirko asked him if there was something on his face. All of a sudden, Leo started pointing out that he had sharp eyes, a high nose, and well-defined lips. Of course, that only made him even more confused, and he asked Leo if he had that kind of taste, to which he immediately replied that he did not mean it in that way. He was trying to figure out what exactly it was about him that everyone liked so much and what made him so popular with women. He wondered if it was the face, or the exceptionally muscular build that he had even among knights, while Mirko once again asked him why he was just staring at him like that. Leo brought up that during his match with Yodi, Cybele was continuously watching him, and she was completely mesmerized, which only proved that he has always had a way of stealing women's hearts. Mirko, on the other hand, said to him that if he was going to sulk about this now, then he should have just entertained his subordinates as well and should have shown them something cool at least once or twice. So almost immediately, Leo asked him to spar with him, and Mirko straight up refused. Mirko assured him that there was no need for him to be jealous because even now, she had brought him food first, which only highlighted that he was still her first priority. But on a serious note, now that they were on this topic, he asked him if he was actually in love with her. Leo started thinking about what happened earlier between the two of them. He was just so happy to see her that he got caught up in the moment, and he ended up telling her his feelings towards her before he even realized it. However, he also could not stop thinking about that incident when she infused her magic into the magical stone. He was pretty sure that the magic resembled the power of a saint's prayer, and if that was actually true, then that meant she was a saint. Mirko asked him if he had gotten the chance to talk to her alone, and Leo shared with him that he actually told her that she could always rely on him. He asked him what she said in return, and he answered that she simply smiled and said thank you. So judging from that, Mirko believed that his feelings probably reached her, and Leo just sat there, thinking to himself that no matter who she was, he really does love Cybele. Coming back to the royal capital, Marcus asked Annika if she was ready to resume her bride training, but of course she did not want to and said that it did not matter because she was the saint, and that meant she would become the crown prince's wife no matter what. Instead, she wanted more cake, because a saint needed to be happy for her powers to work properly, or so she said. However, Marcus pointed out that she had been eating a bit too much lately, and she got offended as she started yelling and asked him if he was calling her fat or something. Just then, a knight came running to him and reported that a monster had appeared in the royal capital. Of course, the third knight order quickly defeated it, so the damage was very minimal. However, they believed that it probably came from the Torii forest. As soon as Annika heard that the monster had been defeated, she was relieved that the castle was safe, but Marcus was shocked to see that the only thing she cared about was herself, when instead, a saint should be more concerned about the people. Besides, for the past few years, there had not been a single instance of monsters appearing in the royal capital, so it did not make any sense to him why monsters were showing up now, even though the saintess was right there. He asked the knight if there had been any damage reports in Torii, and he informed him that there had actually been none, and in fact, just like last month, no incidents had been recorded. It only made the prince even more confused, as he could not believe that in a danger zone like Torii, no monster had appeared there at all for several months. But then he started putting the pieces together and realized that all of this had actually started around the time when he exiled Cybele. Still, he kept telling himself that there was no way she was the saint, because she had never shown any signs of saint-like powers, and Annika was the true saint. However, now that he was thinking about it, he had never really seen the power of the saintess from Annika as well. It was only her mother who claimed to have seen it, but all this time, she had also not shown any sign of possessing a saint's power. All these thoughts running through his mind made him really frustrated, and so he commanded his knight Rick to infiltrate Torii at once. A few days later, Rick arrived at the knight's dormitory in Torii, and he joined them as a new recruit. He met up with Leo and Cybele, and told them that he had just returned from studying abroad in the Barhan Kingdom, so he planned to do his best to put everything that he had learned to good use. Apparently, the Barhan Kingdom was a place that was known for its advanced magic technology. As he took his leave from both of them, Cybele was happy to see that they had gotten a promising new recruit among them. However, Leo wasn't too sure about that just yet. Putting that aside, he asked her what time she would be finished with her work today, and she said that she only had some cleaning left, so she should be free probably in about an hour. He was free around that time as well, so he asked her if she could talk with him for a bit in the courtyard once they were both done with their work. She was a little surprised to hear that, but then she saw the look on his face, and she could tell that he must have something he wanted to discuss because he seemed a little nervous. She agreed to meet him, but then all of a sudden, one knight accidentally bumped into Leo from behind, and he ended up being pushed towards Cybele, getting really close to her face and pinning her against the wall. Both of them just stood there awkwardly for a moment, as they were both extremely embarrassed, and when she called him out, he realized that he had just acted before he even realized what he was doing. He immediately started apologizing to her, asking her if she was all right, and she told him she was fine. He turned to the knights and said to them that they should be more careful while walking through the hallways, and they apologized to both of them as well. He quickly took his leave from her, and Cybele stood there with butterflies in her stomach, as she thought to herself that even if she were crushed under such a manly body, she would not complain at all. However, in the shadows, Rick was secretly observing her. Later, she sat in the courtyard by herself, waiting for Leo to arrive. However, Rick got there first, and he sat beside her. She asked him if he needed anything, and he stated that he only came over because he saw her sitting there. She thought that because he had just arrived there, he must still be trying to get used to everything around there, and since everyone was so kind to her when she arrived there, she wanted to be kind to him as well. He then asked her what she was doing there, sitting all by herself, and she told him that she was waiting for someone. He got straight to the point and asked her if the person she was waiting for was her date. He was curious to know if she had any love interest among the first knights, and she tried to explain to him that it was nothing like that. However, he was certain that with so many men around, she must have at least one person she was interested in. Just then, Commander Leo finally arrived there, and he questioned Rick about what he was doing there. Rick just smiled and said that he was simply asking about some random things, and now that he knew the person she was waiting for was the commander, he took his leave from them. As he went back inside, Leo asked Cybele if that man had done anything to her, and she told him that he did nothing. Leo was glad to hear that, but he also warned her that she should be more careful around him, because they still could not trust him completely. Of course, she did not understand what he meant by that, so he explained to her that this whole situation felt a bit odd to him. A knight was suddenly assigned to this place directly from the royal capital. Even though nothing major had been happening around there for a while now, Cybele pointed out that he did study abroad, so it must mean that he was very skilled, and Leo agreed that that might be true, but still, he advised her not to be alone with him too much. Just then, one knight came up to him, and he had something urgent he wanted to confirm with him, so Leo took his leave and promised to talk to her later. She, on the other hand, started thinking that although she was not entirely sure what was going on there, if the commander himself was giving her advice, she understood that she must remain cautious. Later that night, a welcome party for Rick was held in the dining hall. Everyone seemed to be enjoying themselves, drinking and eating their meals. Yodi was already drunk, and Leo told him that he should not bother Cybele too much in that state. But then Yodi began teasing him again, saying that even though he said that, the commander was the one who wanted to drink with her the most, and Leo shut him up right there. He turned to Cybele and suggested that she go get some rest because if she were to stay with these men for too long, she wouldn't get any sleep, and she agreed to listen to him as soon as she cleaned up the empty bottles. All of a sudden, she heard Yodi challenging his former comrade for a match, and they both began a match of arm wrestling. Meanwhile, Cybele, on the other hand, got extremely excited as she could not believe that she was getting to witness pure strength between two men. Just a few moments later, Yodi lost the match. However, being the drunkard that he was, he suddenly took off his shirt and started shouting that next time, he would go all out no matter what. Obviously, Cybele wasn't expecting something like that, and seeing him shirtless, she began to lose her mind. Elga noticed that she was acting weird, and she scolded Yodi, telling him that he should be more careful in front of the ladies and put his shirt back on. He started apologizing to Cybele, but of course, she wasn't bothered by it at all, and she tried to get one last look at him as Elga was taking her away. But then she saw Leo looking at her, and she immediately turned her face away to act normal and not show her crazy side. Later that night, Leo went up to her, and first, he asked her if she was alright, as he also felt that Yodi really overdid it back there. She told him that she did not mind it at all, she was just a little surprised. With that out of the way, he then asked if he could borrow some of her time, since there was something he had been wanting to discuss with her. He could not seem to put it into words, and judging from his expression, she began to wonder if he had realized that she was secretly admiring the knights all the time. She believed that that must be it, and before he could say anything, she started clarifying herself, admitting that as the caretaker, she might have gotten a little carried away here and there, and she truly apologized for that. At the same time, she explained to him that this was her only source of entertainment. She promised that she would be more careful from now on and begged him not to kick her out of there. However, he had absolutely no idea what she was talking about and told her that there was no way he would kick her out. Taking a deep breath, he said to her that all he wanted to do was just talk with her for a bit, for no particular reason. She stood there confused and wondered why he would want to talk to her. He asked her if he was bothering her, and she told him that that was not at all the case. He was relieved to hear that, and in her mind, she contemplated that for some reason, whenever she saw him like this, happy with her answer, she felt a strange, unfamiliar warmth blooming in her chest, and she herself had no idea why. Meanwhile, Rick was yet again secretly watching them from afar. The next day, Leo could not stop thinking about Cybele, and how truly pure and innocent she was. She was a woman with an untainted, kind heart. The way she covered her face, blushing so deeply after seeing Yodi, he assumed that living in a dorm full of men must be tough for her. Yet she was always thinking of them first, saying that she was fine, and that's why he felt that they should really appreciate her more. Later in the afternoon, he went to the dining room to eat, and Yodi was surprised to see that Cybele wasn't there today. Leo told him that she had the afternoon off today, and again, Yodi started teasing him, saying that he sure seemed to know her schedule really well. Leo clarified that it was his duty as a captain to be aware of everyone's schedules, Just then, Rick came there, and he asked the captain if he could sit beside him. Leo did not mind that, and as he sat down, Rick asked him if Sybil was usually present in the dining hall. Leo told him that she was, since she was in charge of the cooking there. In his mind, the captain contemplated how Tori had been peaceful lately, with no monster attacks whatsoever. However, recently, after several years, a monster had appeared in the royal capital. He could not help but wonder if that happened because Sybil left the royal capital, and if so, he knew that Prince Marcus must be feeling very uneasy right now. Therefore, he believed that there was a very strong possibility that Rick was actually sent by the prince to be a spy. Rick then brought up how Sybil was really loved by everyone there, and Yodi, with his big mouth, stated that there was no reason not to like her. She was an amazing cook, always cheerful, hardworking, super kind, and much more. However, if he were to keep going, he was sure the captain might get jealous. As soon as he heard that, Rick also asked him if the captain had a special fondness for Sybil or something. Again, Yodi, with his big mouth, told him that he sure did and warned him that he should not even think about making a move on her. Leo had had enough of him, and he started strangling Yodi to keep his mouth shut. Just then, Elga came in, and since they were discussing Sybil, she informed them that Sybil was actually cleaning the captain's room right now. Confused, Leo asked her why she was doing that, and she briefed him that the usual cleaning staff had caught a cold, so Sybil just volunteered to help. Immediately, he decided to go check on her, and of course, Yodi teased him once again, asking him if he had anything embarrassing lying around. Leo told him that was not the case, but in his mind, he sure hoped he did not leave any underwear lying around. He went back to his room, and seeing her cleaning the floor, he apologized that she had to do this even though she was supposed to have the afternoon off. Like always, she said to him that she did not mind doing that. But then, he went up to her, kneeling down and holding her hand, and he thanked her for everything she was doing for them. Again, she told him it was completely fine, and in fact, she also stated that it would make her really happy as well if he and the others, who were always working so hard, could relax even a little in their rooms. Out of nowhere, he said to her that he wanted her to relax as well, since she was always working so hard. At first, she was a little surprised, but she thanked him for saying such kind words to her, as it really warmed her heart. He, on the other hand, could not believe how cute she looked when she smiled like that. With that said, he then asked her what her favorite food was and if she liked sweets, to which she answered that she already liked everything. But it was true that she did enjoy sweets a little more. Since that was the case, he recalled hearing from Yodi that there was apparently a new popular cake shop that had opened in town, and he decided to get a cake for her the next time he was in town. He then requested her to just forget about cleaning for now and join him for lunch, and she agreed. But before leaving, she saw some of his clothes lying around, and she picked them up so that she could take them to the laundry. However, from that pile of clothes, his underwear dropped on the floor, and in the blink of an eye, before she could even realize what had just dropped, he picked it up with incredible speed and hid it. He told her to just forget about it, and that they should go and eat. In his mind, he was simply glad that she did not notice what it was. Just like that, a few more days passed, and it seemed like Sybil had caught a cold. Elga guessed that she must have caught the cold from one of the knights and told her to just take the day off. But of course, like always, she repeated that she was fine. However, Elga insisted that she must rest, since she had already been working too hard, and she finally agreed. As she was going back to her room, she also thought to herself that she actually had been feeling a little chilly for a while now and wondered if she was getting a fever. Just then, Rick came up behind her and called out to her. He seemed like he was in a hurry, so she asked him if he was going somewhere. He said that the captain and the others had forgotten something, so he now needed to take it to the Lord's mansion. He asked her if she could come with him, since he was still new around there, and felt a bit more confident when she was around. Plus, he was not too familiar with the area either, so he believed that it would be really helpful for him if she could come with him. Sybil recalled that Leo did tell her she should not be alone with Rick. However, since it was just a short task of delivering something, she guessed that it should be fine. With that in mind, she agreed to accompany him, and he thanked her for making his work easy. The two of them went outside, and she asked him why he was taking a horse, to which he replied that it was just faster than a carriage. He helped her get on and told her to hold onto him tightly. However, she, on the other hand, contemplated that typically she would be really excited to be able to ride with a strong, capable knight, but this time it was not quite the same, and she wasn't really that happy. In fact, for a moment, she could not help but think that it would have been nice if it was Leo. Just thinking that way, she felt that she was being very rude to Rick and started telling herself that she was the worst for thinking things like this. They headed out, and along the way, She asked him why they were heading into the forest, and he said that he knew a shortcut through there. She remained unsure, but still, she decided to trust him. However, as they kept going deeper into the forest, she started to get a little scared, and she asked him if he was sure he knew where he was going. But then suddenly, he told her to just keep her mouth shut, and that left her completely shocked. They arrived in front of a cave, and she pointed out that it clearly did not look like the Lord's mansion. However, he grabbed her, preventing her from running away from him, and he got straight to the point as he questioned her about whether she was actually the real saint.